by marriage. They lived in the same village before the Rabbi Yehuda became the rabbi in Prague. And so the story goes that the Rabbi Yehuda called in. They liked each other. They got along. And so the Rabbi Yehuda called in Baal Shem Tov, and they have the different versions of all these stories. So he asked them, you say that you can read people's minds. Tell me, what am I thinking of now? So he said, you're certainly thinking about the Rabbanu Shalom. So he said, wrong. I'm not. So he said, well, you're supposed to. Shavis Hashem Negdi. Something's supposed to be thinking. So that's really, Rabbi Hanan said, that's really the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Leida. Leida means Vayeda Hadam Eschabed Ishtoi, that there should be a constant awareness and a consciousness of the fact that the Rabbanu Shalom is always there. So this is a big machlokes in the Sefer Hamitzvos, where they count Anochi Hashem Elokecha. And if you do, what does it mean? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. The Rambam has in the first half of the Sefer Hamitzvos, he has the 14 Sharoshim. That's how it was translated. We would call it the 14 Klolim, the 14 guiding principles that determine whether any given mitzvah belongs in the Sefer Hamitzvos or not. So the Rambam has the first klal that you only count mitzvahs deraisa, you don't count mitzvahs derabban. Then the Rambam has another klal, the third klal, the third shorish, you only count mitzvahs that are noig l'der. Something is only harosha, you don't count it. So it's famous in the name of Rab Chaim Soloveitchik, very interesting insight. The Rambam didn't count a mitzvah of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim every day. The mitzvah of Sipa Yitzias Mitzrayim on Pesach night, he got it to Vincha Bayam Mahulema once a year on Pesach night in conjunction with Matzah and Moror. So that mitzvah the Rambam does count. He got it to Vincha Sipa Yitzias Mitzrayim. But the mitzvah, Leman Tizkar, Sem Tzescha, Mieretz Zayin, Kol Yemechayecha, Yemechayecha HaYamim, Kol Yemechayecha Halilos, Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, just to mention the Kitzah Yitzias Mitzrayim, Bayoma Balayla, the third parsha Bayomer and Kriya Shema. The first one because B'shach B'chav Kumecha, Shema Bayom Shema, and Bayom is because of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. So that daily mitzvah the Rambam didn't count. So the Tzlacham Brachas raises the question. Tzlach Tzion and Nefesh Chai is a sefer authored by the Rabbi Yehuda. I'm Brachas and I'm Beitza and I'm Psochim, different Mesichtas. So the Tzlach raises the question, how come the Rambam didn't count the mitzvah of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim? So there may be many answers. So the simple answer is that that's not really Pshuto Shanikra. The Pasuk in Parshas Re'eh says we should eat the Korban Pesach. We should eat the Korban Pesach. We should never forget about the Yitzias Mitzrayim. We should always remember it. So Pshuto Shal Mikra is you should eat Korban Pesach for that purpose. That's the Tam HaMitzvah of eating Korban Pesach. Torah Shebal Peh has additional level of interpretation, Leman Tizkar, Leman Tazkir. Not that this should remind you, but rather you should mention Lahazkir, Lazacher, Sam Shabbos, Lakachay, means Lahazkir. You should mention, you should recite Kiddush. So there by Kiddush, we assume that that's Pshuto Shal Mikra. It's not an additional level of interpretation. Not that Pshuto Shal Mikra is Zachar Sam Shabbos L'Katsha, remember the day of Shabbos to keep it holy. No, it's mentioned the Kedusha Sayom to sanctify it. By reciting Kiddush, we add Tosefes Kedusha, we add the Shabbos has Kedusha B'dei Shamayim. It's Kodesh V'yomid from Sheshes Mei Bereishis Vayvarach Halakim Hashem Hashvi. By Kadoshos HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mekadosh Shabbos. By our reciting Kiddush, we add Tosefes Kedusha B'dei Adam to the day of Shabbos. So there the Rambam writes in the Sefer Hamitzvos, that's Pshuto Shal Mikra. That Zochar Sam Shabbos L'Kachay doesn't mean remember, it means to mention. How do you know? Maybe Pshuto Shal Mikra is to remember. So the Rambam says, the Gemara has a lashon, Nashim Chayavis B'Kiddush Hayom Dvar Torah. Even though Kiddush is a mitzvah sesa Shazman Grama, and women should really normally be potter from mitzvah sesa Shazman Grama. So the Gemara said this is an exception to the rule, Kiddush, because Zach v'Shama b'Dibur Echademra, on the occasion of Maimon Hasin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu proclaimed both simultaneously. Mashein ha'peh yicholu l'daber v'lo ha'ozen yicholu l'shmaya. How can you say two different things, Zach v'Shama, at the same time? How can you hear two things? It was l'mayla min ha'teva, and the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu said both simultaneously is to make this hekesh. Hekesh usually means you have two dinim in the pasuk, So we assume that there's a connection between the beginning of the pasuk and the end of the pasuk. Here it's more than two dinim in the same pasuk, one in the beginning, one in the end. The both dinim were proclaimed simultaneously. So that's stronger than a hekesh. So that's why women are mechuyev, even though it says mangram. So the Rambam writes, since the Gemara has a lashon, nashim chayavas b'kiddush hayom devar Torah. So the Rambam thinks that those two words, devar Torah, means that it's pshuto shal mikra. It's not that it's an additional level of interpretation that the Torah Shabbat Peh is giving to the pasuk, and the pshuto shal mikra means zachar sam Shabbos l'katri, remember the day of Shabbos to keep it holy. But that's pshut shal mikra devar Torah, means to mention Kedushas Hayom, to sanctify the day. So that's over there. But here in this pasuk, it says you should eat, in Parshas Re'eh, it says you should eat Korban Pesach. So Pshuto Shal Mikra is Lamantiska. We should remember Yetzias Mitzrayim all year long. This is an additional level of the Torah Shebal Peh, Lamantiska, Lamantasker. We should mention Yetzias Mitzrayim every day by Yom HaBalayla. Kol Yemechayecha, Yemechayecha Hayamim, Kol Yemechayecha Halilos. So this is all perhaps an additional level of interpretation. It's not Pshuto Shal Mikra. And the Rambam writes in the second of the Sharoshim, the first Shorish and the 14 Sharoshim, in the first half of the Sefer Hamitzvos, 14 guiding principles that determine whether any given mitzvah belongs in the list of the Taryag or not. So the first principle is you only include mitzvahs deraisa. The second is you don't include anything that's based on Torah Shebal Peh, only Torah Shebechsav. Because in every generation, the Rambam holds you can add on more drushes, more dinim deraisa, Torah Shebal Peh. It doesn't have to be Masor from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Bezdin in every generation, the Rambam disagrees with the Goyim. The Rambam holds he can, the Bezdin Shebechol Davador has the right to darshan using the Yud Gimel Midas. So when the Bezdin is going to come up with a new din deraisa based on a drush of the Torah Shebal Peh, have to throw out one of the other mitzvahs because you only have 613. So the Rambam says, no, there's 613 pshuto shal mikra before you even begin, before you start those 613. So Alpi Pashtus, the reason why the Rambam didn't count the mitzvah of Zechiras Tzis Mitzrayim every day, because of the second shorish, because it's a drasha of the Torah Shebal Peh. So that's one suggestion, that's one possibility. So they say B'Shem Rab Chaim another two answers. So one of the answers, in all the yeshivas, they say over one answer. Rab Soloveitchik used to say the second, both, two answers. So in all the yeshivas, they say over the one answer. Rab Chaim, there's a machlokes satanoim. Yemechayecha hayamim kol yemechayecha halelos. That's how we paskin. But limos hamashiach, you won't be obligated to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. Pesach night we will be obligated, but every day and every night we will no longer be obligated because the Navi says, the pasuk in Navi, when it will come the Gula Hasida, this will outshine the Gulas Mitzrayim, and we will no longer talk about Gulas Mitzrayim. We'll just talk about the Gula Hasida. So since the Rab Chaim is quoted as having said, since the mitzvah doesn't apply throughout all the generations, it only applies for a few thousand years. But B'Mos HaMashiach, the mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim every day will no longer apply. So that's called the Hayru Ashur. Hayru Ashur for a few millennia, not for a few years, for a few thousand years. According to the other Tana, that the mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim will still continue to be observed even after Mashiach comes, but then you say the chiyuv is only by Yom and not by Laila. Then by Ma'ariv you don't have to say by Yomer. So it's a machlokes hatanaim in the Haggadah, where the word kol yemechayecha, kol is a riba, is a mar b'limos HaMashiach, or is a mar b'leilos. If it's mar b'leilos, then Yemos HaMashiach, the mitzvah will no longer apply. And then Rab Chaim, that's how we assume, kol is mar b'leilos, and Yemos HaMashiach, the mitzvah will not apply. So that's why the Rambam didn't include it, because it's a Hira Shoah. That's an interesting insight. I wrote short for a few thousand years. The Rambam there in that Shorish, and Shorish Gimel, when he says you don't include Hayra Shah, he has a taina, he has a complaint against the halachas gedolos that in Parshas Matos, when you have Melchemes Midyan, so the Bnei Yisrael were instructed to give Trumas HaMechas. The Bnei Yisrael had to give Echad Achuz Ben HaChamishim, and the soldiers had to give Echad Achuz Mechamesh HaMeyos. So the Baha counts this as one of the Taryag mitzvahs. So the Rambam says, how can it be? But the Gemara said, said it's only Haru Ashur. The Trumas HaMechas is only Haru Ashur. So the Ramban comes to defend the Bahag, why he counted Trumas HaMechas. He gives two suggestions. So one suggestion he gives is maybe the Bahag is of the opinion that whenever the Jewish army is successful in battle and they conquer the enemy and they acquire property, they get gold and silver and whatever, slaves, servants, whatever. Maybe there's always such a din l'doros, and whenever you win a war, you're obligated to give Trumas Hamechas. That's one suggestion the Ramban gives. The Megillah Esther, who always wrote on the side of the page to defend the Rambam from all of the comments of the Ramban, Megillah Esther says, with all due respect to the Ramban, that's beferish against the Gemara. The Gemara says beferish and menachas. Trumas Hamechas was only once in the history of the world. It's not like every single time the Jewish army is successful in battle. So that suggestion the Ramban gave, that's very difficult. That's against the Gemara. Then the Ramban gives another suggestion. That's already interesting. True, the obligation, Trumas Hamechas, was only once in the history of the world. That's a Hiru Ashah. And Hiru Ashah doesn't deserve, he's masking with the Rambam, Hiru Ashah doesn't deserve to be counted in the Sefer Hamitzvos. But the Ramban says, this Hiru Ashah, the obligation is only Hiru Ashah. But whenever you donate money to the Beis Hamikdash, there's a Kiyum mitzvah there, right? He made a donation to Hegdish. So maybe the Bahag is of the opinion, true, like Moshe Rabbeinu was instructed, he should pick up his stick and he should do Kriyas Yamsuf. So that was once in the history of the world. And if he'll do it now, he'll pick up his stick, Kriyas Yamsuf will not occur. And even if by some stunt, by some trick, by some miracle, it will occur, there won't be a Kiyum mitzvah. There's no Chiyum and there's no Kiyum, there's nothing with nothing. Or there was a Hiru Ashah, an Erev Pesach, of Yitzias Mitzrayim. All the people were instructed they should knock on the next door neighbor's doors to ask for gifts. They should ask for matanas, bizas Mitzrayim. So the doros, there is no such obligation, then there's no kiyum. Even if I'll knock on my next door neighbor's door, my goyish neighbors, and they'll give me matanas, even if they will give me matanas, I have no kiyum at all. Here by Trumas Hamechas, the obligation is Hiru Ashah, but the kiyum is a kiyum l'doros. You made a donation to Hegdish, that's certainly a kiyum mitzvah. So the Ramban suggests that maybe the Bahag is of the opinion that whenever there's a chiyuv l'sha'ah, which has a kiyum l'doros, maybe that does belong in the minyan mitzvahs. That's an interesting insight. That is an interesting insight. So let's say when they brought the karbanos for Chanukas HaMishkan, that was once in the history of the world that they brought those karbanos. But bringing karbanos is a kiyum l'doros. So then that should really be counted as one of the mitzvahs and the Taryag mitzvahs. So the Ramban happens to count it. Ramban in Chumash, the end of Parshas Nasai, and in the Sefer Hamitzvos, he does count it. He says, whenever you complete the building of Beis Hamikdash, it hasn't happened so often. Whenever you complete the building of the Beis Hamikdash, you have to celebrate. So in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, they celebrated Shivas Yimei Miluim. That's how the Malbim points this out. They celebrated the last 7 days in Chodesh Adar, where the Shivas Yimei Miluim. In the days of Shlomo HaMelech, when they completed the building of the first Beis Hamikdash, so it says in the pasuk they celebrated Shivas Yamim Mishivas Yamim, the last 7 days prior to Sukkot, and the first 7 days of Sukkot, up until Shmini Atzeres. So the Malbim understands that it means that they celebrated for Shivas Yamim, celebrated for 14 days. When Ezra and Nehemiah completed the building on the second Beis Hamikdash, it says that they celebrated for 3 weeks. L'aseh Lavai, when we will complete the building of the third Beis Hamikdash, it says in the end of the Navi Yecheskel, we will start celebrating, bringing special karbanos starting from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It doesn't say which year, just says we'll start from Rosh Chodesh Nisan and continue to bring special karbanos over and above the Tmidim and Musafim until after Sukkot, over 6 months. Starting from Rosh Chodesh Nisan till after Sukkot is a little over 6 months. So the Malbim, the end of Yecheskel, makes a whole calculation. Why is that so? Why is in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu they celebrated Shivas Yamim? In the days of Shlomo HaMelech Bais Rishon they celebrated Shivas Yamim and Shivas Yamim, 2 weeks. And how come in the beginning of Bais Sheni it was 3 weeks? And how come Asilav is going to be 6.5 months? But the Ramban says, both in the Chumash and in the Sefer Hamitzvos, he thinks this is a mitzvah l'doros. It's a chiyuv l'doros, not just I asked, even though only Hiru Ashah, but it's a kiyum. l'doros, to bring korban. Another Ramban holds that it's a chiyuv l'doros. Whenever you build a Beis Hamikdash, you're obligated to celebrate. The details, how many days you celebrate and which karbonos you should bring, which rabbi should give a pilpul on which sugin, which chazan should sing, with how big a choir, which niggin, so that has to be negotiated. The details you have to work out. But in principle, that you have to celebrate every time you complete the building of a Beis Hamikdash, Ramban holds that that is a mitzvah l'doros. In fact, in the Sefer Galia Masechta, by Rab David al-Navardik. He was the Rabbi Navardik during the lifetime of Rab Chaim Volozhiner. He delivered a hesped. He printed the hesped that he delivered when Rab Chaim Volozhiner passed away. It was unusual because he had a shtickle machlekes with Rab Chaim Volozhiner personal. And then later on, he realized that he was wrong. Rab Chaim Volozhiner was right. So he became a big chassid of his. And when he passed away, he gave a very strong hesped, which he printed later on. So in the Sefer Galia Masechta, the Gemara says that David HaMelech was more successful than Shaul in giving public shiurim, because David HaMelech was Galia Masechta. He announced in advance the marmakamis for his shiurim, and the people came prepared. So when he delivered the shiur, there was give and take, and there was discussion, and the shiur came out better. And Shaul was lo Galia Masechta. That's how some Rishonim learn pshat. Shaul didn't announce in advance the marmakamis, and when he gave the shiur, they couldn't pilpa with him. So because it was lacking the pilpul of the Talmidim, so the shurim were weaker. That's how the Gemara says. So this person, the one who wrote the Sefer, his name was David. He was the rabbi in Navardik, Rab David al-Navardiker. So he feels that his tshuvas, it's a tshuva Sefer, he feels that his tshuvas are so solid, it's like David HaMelech Galia Masechta. It's everything is clear, everything is correct. So he says that according to this Ramban, not only is there a mitzvah whenever you happen to build a Beis Hamikdash, he says some Rishonim hold that Kedusha's Beis HaKnesset and the Beis HaMedrash is also deraisa. The Gemara comments on the pasuk in Novi that says the Jews will be sent into Golus, and even though they won't have the real Beis Hamikdash, they'll have the Mikdash Me'at, they'll have a miniature Beis Hamikdash. What is that referring to? What's the miniature Beis Hamikdash? So the Gemara says in the end of Megillah, that's referring to the shuls and the yeshivas all over the world. Bavel means chutzlor, it's all over the world. So some Rishonim say it's only an asmachta with the Rabban, and that's not what the pasuk means. And the whole concept of Kedusha's Beis HaKnesses and Kedusha's Beis HaMedrash, the whole thing is only with the Rabbanan. And the Rambam seems to hold not so. And the Yereim writes, not like that. The Kedusha's Beis HaKnesses is a din deraisa. The Chayodam points out the Yereim. He says we should be extra careful on Kedusha's Beis HaMedrash, because according to the Yereim, the dinim are dinim deraisa. So the Galia Masechta has a suggestion that maybe the Ramban's mitzvah applies. Whenever you complete the building of a shul or the building of a Beis HaMedrash, maybe there's a mitzvah in Torah to celebrate. How many days to celebrate, and how to have a dance, and to have nigunim, and to have a chazan, to have a shiur. Who should give the shiur? So that the details are to be negotiated, to be arranged. But in principle, whenever you celebrate, whenever you complete the building of a shul Beis HaMedrash, the Galia Masechta thinks that according to this Ramban, there will be a mitzvah deraisa to celebrate. Some of the topics of the Sefer Hamitzvos we already discussed, so I won't repeat them. Regarding Hoirah Shah, the Rambam in the third Shoresh said you don't count Hoirah Shah. So the Kedushas Levi has a very interesting comment on the Psukim and Parshas Boy. It says, Bnei Yisrael also, they brought the Korban Pesach as Moshe Rabbeinu instructed. Bnei Yisrael also, Kasha Tziva Hashem es Moshe. Then they were told to knock on the next door neighbors' doors to ask for matonis. It says, Bnei Yisrael also, Kidvar Moshe. So how come by the Bizas Mitzvah it says, Bnei Yisrael also, Kidvar Moshe? And regarding the Korban Pesach Mitzvah it says, Bnei Yisrael also, Kasha Tziva Hashem es Moshe. So Levi Yitzchak Berditcheva writes in the Sefer HaChumash He has a lot of Hasidus and a lot of Kabbalah, but he has a lot of straightforward halacha, very normal pshatim. So he has a beautiful suggestion. He says a mitzvah is only a mitzvah that's noig l'doros. True, in Pesach Mitzrayim, there were a lot of hayra shah. Achaltem asa b'chipazin, mastech machagurim, na'alechem aglechem, na'alechem b'raglechem, akelchem yetchem, al yetziyish mepesach pesach bucket. There were a lot of dinim that were hayra shah, but in principle, bringing a korban Pesach is a din l'doros. So that's why by Korban Pesach it says B'nai Yisrael also kashat tziva Hashem es Moshe, because the term mitzvah is a technical term that means mitzvah that you mechuyev to do throughout all the generations. That's the Rashi on the opening pasuk in Parshas Tzabeh in Lashon Tzabeh Lashon Ziris Miyado Lederis. Rashi is quoting from the Torah Kohanim from the Sifra. Mitzvah is a technical term that only applies to a mitzvah that you're obligated to do throughout all the generations. But the Bizas Mitzrayim, that was once in the history of the world. So you can't say B'nai Yisrael also kashat tziva Hashem es Moshe. So it says B'nai Yisrael also kidvar Moshe. Kidvar Moshe. Yeah. The Rambam in the Sefer Hamitzvos writes mitzvah kuf nun gimel. He writes as one mitzvah that the Beis Nagadol has an obligation to take care of Kiddush HaChodesh and Ibra Hashana. You have to decide at the end of every month whether Rosh Chodesh should be on the 30th day or the 31st day. Should the month that's ending only have 29 days? In the Jewish calendar, any month can either have 29 or 30 days. Can't have less than 29, can't have more than 30 days. So that's the responsibility, the Rambam holds, that's the responsibility of the Beis Nagadol to take care of Kiddush HaChodesh and Ibra Hashana, to decide which years have 13 months and which years only have 12 months. So the Rambam counts it as one mitzvah. The Rambam makes fun of the Bahag, why he counted so the Gemara says, that the Jewish people know how to calculate Chishuv Tkufas Umazolas. We know astronomy. So the Bahag counts that as a mitzvah. So what the Rambam says, he makes fun. What's a mitzvah to know astronomy? A mitzvah to know physics and mathematics, to be able to calculate when the tkufas are going to take place. So the Ramban defends the Bahag. He says what the Bahag meant by the Chishub Tkufas Umazolas is, he meant the mitzvah of Ibra Hashana. Whereas the Rambam counts them as one mitzvah, Kiddush HaChodesh, Ibra Hashana is Kviyas HaLuach. The Bahag was of the opinion that Kiddush HaChodesh is one mitzvah, Chodesh Alachem, and Ibra Hashana is the other mitzvah, Kiyichach Maschmei V'Naschon Leini Ha'amim, is Chishub Tkufas Umazolas. So the Rambam discusses that mitzvah. The Rambam holds that it's all one big mitzvah. Rambam says, how do we fulfill that mitzvah bizman hazeh? We don't have any Beis Nagadol. We don't have anybody has smicha at all. So how can we fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh and Ibra Hashana? So the Rambam develops a whole theme, which he repeats in the Mishnah Torah in Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh. He says that we have halacha l'moshe misina, that bizman that you have a Sanhedrin, they should determine every month Kiddush HaChodesh al pi hariyah, and if Eidim don't come, then al pi hacheshbon, okay. And then you have Ibra Hashana, should be done by the Beis Nagadol. Which year needs to have a month added, 13 months, and which years you leave it's only 12 months. And Bisman that you don't have Beis Nagadol, then it's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai that the Rosh Chodashim happen by themselves, and the Kiddush HaChodesh happens by itself, and the Ibra Hashana happens by itself. So the Ramban makes fun of it. A long Ramban there. Mitzvah says the Kuf Nun Gimel. I remember when we learned the first parak in Sanhedrin, Rabbi Soloveitchik spent 2 days. He used to give a shir Tuesday and Wednesday, then only 2 days a week. Spent 2 full days. Every shir was 2 hours. Very, very chock full. He spoke very quickly. He didn't repeat himself. So he spent 2 full days commenting, reading the whole Ramban inside. Ramban has a lot of important ideas there. So the Ramban makes fun of the Rambam. He says, what do you mean, halacha l'Moshe Misinai? I'm slightly familiar with Talmud. I never heard of this halacha l'Moshe Misinai. What did they do? They kept it a secret from me. Why did they keep it a secret? I never heard of this. He doesn't agree. So how do we have Rosh Chodashim and Yamim Tovim today if there's no bezdin to do Kiddush HaChodesh and Ibra Hashana? So the Ramban says, no. Hillel Hasheni, who was a descendant from Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, saw that the smicha is going to end. They won't be able to keep on conferring smicha because the goyim kept on making zeres against the shoes, And you can't confer smicha in Chutzlar, it's only in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, the Roman government was giving the Jews a hard time. So he was Mekadosh Ole Rosh Chodesh Madbias Hagel Biz Mashiach that Kumen, and he had already established the whole luach in advance, which years will be Shanim Pshutas, which will be Shanim Mubaris. But it's not that there's halach al Moshe Sinai, that they happen by themselves. The Rosh Chodesh roll on their own, and the Shanim Mubaris happen on their own. No, it's Hillel Hasheni established everything in advance. And the Rambam holds not so. The Rambam holds that this is halach al Moshe Sinai. So that's machlokes. How do we still fulfill that mitzvah today? The Ramban deletes a lot of the mitzvahs that the Rambam counted, and then he has to replace them with other mitzvahs. So one of the mitzvahs that the Ramban adds on is a mitzvah to recite Birchas HaTorah. The Gemara in Brochas Daf Chaf learns that from a pasuk, Kishem Hashem Ekra, when I'm about to learn Torah, we should praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Ramban holds that reciting Birchas HaTorah before you learn Torah is a real mitzvah min HaTorah. The Rambam didn't count it, so many assume that the Rambam holds that Birchas HaTorah is like all the other brachas, like all the Birchas HaNenen, like all the other Birchas HaMitzvah, they're only midrabanan. Birchas HaMazon is deraisa, v'chalta v'sabata v'rachta Hashem alakecha, to recite Kiddush, the bracha Kiddush is deraisa. But all the other brachas, including Birchas HaTorah, are deraisa. Or perhaps the Rambam also agrees with the Ramban that Birchas HaTorah is deraisa, but perhaps he thinks that it's one big mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to learn Torah and to recite Birchas HaTorah in connection with learning Torah. The Ramban suggests that maybe the Rambam also agrees that this Gemara does seem like it says, the Gemara in Brachas Daf Chaf seems like it says explicitly that Birchas HaTorah is a din deraisa. So why shouldn't the Rambam count it? So the Ramban says maybe the Rambam thinks that it's one mitzvah, it's a prat within the mitzvah. The Ramban thinks that that is not correct. It deserves to be counted as a separate mitzvah, just like Havas Bikurim and Mikra Bikurim are two different mitzvahs, and just like eating Korban Pesach and Sipi Yitzias Mitzrayim are two distinct mitzvahs, so too learning Torah and reciting Birchas HaTorah should really be counted as two distinct mitzvahs. So that's interesting that the Ramban raises the possibility. Mikra Bikurim with Havas Bikurim, I would understand why it should be counted as one mitzvah. Ramban says no, all the money on mitzvah counted as two. Because there are some people who bring Bikurim, Elam Avim, and Karim. Some people bring the Bikurim, obligated to bring, but they're not obligated to recite Aram Yavid Avi. But over here, whoever learns Torah is obligated to recite the bracha. So he says here it should not be counted as one mitzvah. It should also be two mitzvahs over here. The Mishnah Berurah quotes the Shagasari has a tshuva. He says he paskins like the Ramban, that Birchas HaTorah is deraisa. It could be the Rambam doesn't disagree, and therefore he comes up with the idea if a person is mesupik, whether he's obligated to recite Birchas HaTorah or not, so he thinks that sofik deraisa l'chumra, that if you're mesupik, you don't remember if he said Birchas HaTorah or not, so then misofik, you wouldn't say sofik brachas l'hakal. You only say sofik brachas l'hakal if it's a bracha derabbanan. But let's say a person ate kidei svi, if a person only ate a kazayas of bread and he's still hungry, in the concentration camps, when they gave them so little bread, so the obligation to recite Birchas HaMazon was not their rice because they didn't have Kedei Sfiyah. But by us, we're not missing anything. So when we eat Kedei Sfiyah, we're obligated to recite Birchas HaMazon and Atar. So if a person is a little tipsy and doesn't remember whether he recited Birchas HaMazon, then we would say Safik Birch, Safik Lo Birch Chayzim Mevarach, Safik Deraisa L'Chumra. So that's what the Mishnah Berurah quotes the Shagasar. If a person is mesupik in the morning, whether he said Birchas HaTorah or not, so the Shagasar paschins like the Ramban, that Birchas HaTorah is deraisa, and Safik brachas would be lahachmer in this situation. There's an issue in the Rishonim, how many mitzvahs do you count misas bezin? So the Ramban is of the opinion in the Sefer Hamitzvos, all the misas bezin, whoever gets a death penalty, is one mitzvah, bi'atara mikebecha. He quotes a Gemara in the last parak in Chulin, that when you have a behemoth that's chayiv misa, so there's a mitzvah bi'atara mikebecha to dispose of the behemoth. The Ramban says that's the mitzvah, skila, streifa, herik, chenik, whatever it is, it's one mitzvah to give misas bezin. The Rambam counts him as 4 different mitzvahs. Skila, to give skila to all the people of chayiv skila, to give chenek, to give sayev, to give sreifa, 4 different mitzvahs. But the Gemara says it's a mitzvah. B'yarta Ram Kebecha sounds like it's one mitzvah. So how come the Rambam counts it as four mitzvahs? So the Megillah Sester always comes to defend the Rambam from the tightness of the Ramban. What does he do? The Gemara says the mitzvah was B'yarta Ram Kebecha. So the Megillah Sester says if you look in the Gemara, the last parak and Chulin, in the context in the Gemara, it's a different mitzvah. The mitzvah on the bezin to give Mises bezin, the Rambam holds there four mitzvahs. Skila Svefer Herek Chenek. The mitzvah B'yat Ram Kebecha is a mitzvah on the tzibur that they should bring the person or the animal that's chayv misa to judgment. They should see to it that he's brought to bezin. And then the bezin has the four mitzvahs of Skila Svefer Herek Chenek. The difficulty is, all right, he explained that the Gemara is not what the Ramban read it. The Ramban read that Gemara to say that the mitzvah b'yat Ram Kebecha is one mitzvah to give Mises Bezin to all the people of Chayv Mis. So it's not in the context of the Gemara, the mitzvah on the Bezin, maybe the Rambam is right, there are four mitzvahs. That's the mitzvah on the tzibur to see to it that a person or an animal should be brought to justice. B'yat Ram Kebecha. But he didn't answer the Rambam because the Rambam doesn't count the mitzvah b'yat Ram Kebecha. He only counts the four mitzvahs, skil straight for Herek Chenek. So it's still a difficulty on the Rambam. The Gemara quoted the pasuk b'yat Ram Kebecha. The Rambam should have quoted it the way the Megillah says interpreted it. But the Rambam, who says that it's four mitzvahs, his main attack was not so much like the Ramban, it's four, not one. His main attack was against the Bahag. The Bahag claims that every single person is Chayv Misa is a separate mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to give. A murderer gets a death penalty, Avodah Zarah gets death penalty, Baalei Shesish gets a death penalty, a whole bunch of Gainim Nefesh and Mecharai, every time there's a Chiyuv Misa, the Bahag counts it as a separate mitzvah. So the Rambam makes fun of the Bahag. He says, how can you count it as a separate mitzvah? So how many people get Malkus? Whoever doesn't have there, that's similar to the Sachsim Shabbat gets Malkus. I think the Rambam adds them all up in the end of Hilchas Sanhedrin, gives you a full list, and adds up to the Gematria is Zar, 207. Zayin Reish. 207 Averis get an Einish Malchus. So you have to add it. So we count one mitzvah to give Malchus to whoever deserves Malchus. V'ayon bin HaKosa Rasha, to give Malchus to whoever deserves Malchus. So the Rambam asks, according to the Bahag, that you count every person, every time there's a chiyuv to give Misa, you count it as another mitzvah. So how come you count Malchus only as one mitzvah to give Malchus? You should count it as 207 mitzvahs. 207 mitzvahs, so you're not going to have Ramach mitzvahs essay. You already have 207 just to give Malchus. So how are you going to have? You don't have enough room to say Kiddush and to like tefillin, to blow shofar and to eat matzah and mar and so on. That it cannot be that it's 207 mitzvahs. The Bahag only counts it as one mitzvah. Why does the Bahag distinguish? That's the Rambam's kasha. Why does the Bahag distinguish between Malchus and Misa? That by Malchus he gives one mitzvah to give Malchus to whoever deserves, and Misa, every time you give Misa, there's a separate mitzvah essay. So the Ramban comes to defend the Bahag, and he gives a very good explanation. By Malchus, there's a klal. The klal is whoever in Mishnah Torah we darshan smuchim. In Kol HaTorah Kula, there's a machlekes hatanaim, and usually we assume we don't darshan smuchim. Just because you have one pasuk next to the other pasuk doesn't necessarily imply that there's a connection between the two. But in Mishnah Torah Chumash Dvarim, we do darshan smuchim. The Gemara explains why in Yevamis, in the beginning, Daf Heya. So we darshan smuchim that the pasuk says v'hayon min hakois harasha the hipil al shofar we call the fana kadei rishos b'mispar boim yakenu, and then it says right next to that l'sachs mishar b'disha to teach you darshan smuchim and chumash dvarim. Who is the rasha who deserves malchus, whoever violates an avera, that's similar to l'sachs mishar b'disha dumi delav dachasima. So there's one klal in Malchus. Whoever does an Aver, that's similar to L'Sachsim Shabbat. So it's one mitzvah to give Malchus to whoever did an Aver, that's similar. In Misa, we don't have any klal at all. We don't have any klal. That's why in Misa, there's a klal in the Gemara, Ein Onshim min Adin. You cannot establish that someone deserves Koris or someone deserves Misa based on a Kal V'chomer, because we don't have any klal who gets Koris and who gets Misa. Each case of Misa is different. Each case of Koris is different. We don't have any Tzad HaShavah. So that's why the Bahag is of the opinion that everyone who's Chayv Misa is a separate mitzvah. But by Malchus, it's one big klal. So that's one mitzvah to give malchus to whoever deserves malchus. The Rambam in the listing of the lavim counts as a lav, the soldiers in the army, it says in the Chumash, Lasira mehem. The soldiers should not be afraid when they go to battle. So just like we have Hasagas Haravid on the Rambam and the Mishnah Torah, so you have Hasagas Haravid on the Sefer Hamitzvos also. The Sefer Hamitzvos was originally written in Arabic. We use the Hebrew translation, but it was written with the intention of being the introduction to the Mishnah Torah. That's what learning is all about. Learning means you should learn the Taryag mitzvahs u'shmartem la'asosam. Talmud Torah means not to philosophize about the mitzvahs, to learn which are the 613 mitzvahs. You should learn the mitzvahs and to know all the details of all of the mitzvahs. So the outline, the framework of the Mishnah Torah is the Rambam wrote the Sefer Hamitzvos, which are the 613 mitzvahs. Beginning of each section in the Rambam, he tells me we're going to now cover 21 mitzvahs. So many mitzvahs say, so many mitzvahs lo say. Then the next section, every section, it tells you how many mitzvahs they're going to have here. Then by the time you get to the end of the Mishnah Torah, you've covered all the 613 mitzvahs. So you know all there is to know about Kol HaTorah Kula. Kol HaTorah Kula means the mitzvahs. We should learn all the mitzvahs. So we have Hasagas HaRavid on the Sefer HaMitzvos as well. So the Ravid is Masik. How can he say Lasir Mehem is a loisese? It's a haftache. The Rebbeinu Shalom says there won't be anything to worry about. Don't worry, but it's not, I warn you, you're not allowed to worry. How can you tell a person can't control his emotions? He's in the army and there are bullets flying to the right and to the left. There are bombs bursting all over the place. Bombs bursting in the air. What do you mean, you're not allowed to be afraid? How can a person control himself? So apparently the Rambam thinks that it's shaykh to have a mitzvah, that we do have the ability to control our emotions, not to be afraid. It's an interesting machlokes, the Rambam and the Ravid. The Ibn Ezra has in his commentary on Chumash, that's a question. How can you have a pasuk in the Aseres Adibos, lo sachben and lo sisave? How can you say it? How can a person control his desire? He sees the other one has a good-looking wife, the other one has a beautiful home or a beautiful automobile, and he has a desire. How can you control yourself? How can you have a lav le'sachman aloy? So the Ibn Ezra says, would the farmer ever have a desire to marry the king's daughter? He knows that it's not shaykh, even though the king's daughter is so good-looking and dressed up in such fancy clothing and everything. He'll never have a havamina. He knows that it's impossible. The king will never let the daughter marry the farmer. So the farmer doesn't have a havamina. So too, you should have the attitude that Eishis Reyecha, Beis Reyecha, and Kol Asher Reyecha, it's not mine, it's not Bo B'Cheshbon. You shouldn't even have a havamina to desire it because you just can't have it. So the Ibn Ezra also writes like that, like the Rambam, that it is possible for a person to control his desires. That's the question. What's Lo Sachman, what's Lo Sisabe? So the Rambam quotes from the Tanoim, Lo Sachman is only if you have a desire and it led to taking it. Like it says, when you come to Eretz Yisrael and you see the Avodah Zarahs, Lo Sachman Kesef V'Zav Aleim B'Lakachta Loch. You shouldn't desire the gold and silver that the Avodah Zarah put on top of their idols, and you shouldn't take it because it's asabano. Avodah Zarah is asabano. So the verb loisachma appears in connection with v'lakachtalach. So the Rambam's opinion is loisasave. You in the Luchas Shnius it says loisasave. So the loisasave you violate if you just have a desire. Loisachma you only violate if you have a desire that led to lakicha. If it didn't lead to lakicha, then you haven't violated loisachma. So loisachma, I can say the person can control his actions. Don't do anything to take away the other fellow's wife. Don't do anything to take away his automobile or to take away his home. But lo sesava, not to have a desire, that's just in emotions. How can you control yourself? So the Rambam and Ibn Ezra say that you do have the ability to control yourself. The Rambam writes in the Sefer Hamitzvos that there's a lav, lo sakifu pas roshchem pas ganacha lo yigalechu. You're not allowed to shave off your beard with a razor. You're not allowed to shave off the payas. The Rambam happens to hold that the issa shaving off the payas is only with a razor. If you shave with an electric shaver, whatever you're allowed to shave by the beard, you're allowed to shave on the payas. Also, he quotes a Tosefta. And Tosfos in Nazir shows that the Bavli seems to disagree with that Tosefta. And Tosfos paskins like the Bavli, that the beard you're allowed to shave off as long as shaloi betar. But on the payas, even shaloi betar, you're not allowed to. That's akifa pas roshchem, pas harosh is also even shaloi betar. That's another issue. So the Rambam writes, there's one law not to shave off the beard, and there's one law not to shave off the payas. So the Rabbit has a hasoge on the Rambam Sefer Hamitzvos, lav la makif, lav la nikaf, lav la mashchis, but lav la nishchas. The Rabbit thinks that it should be counted as two mitzvahs, because since it has loy sakifu in the plural, even though lo sashchis piasik is in the singular, but the simple correct reading on the Rabbit is that he's asking on both, on pas hazokan and pas harosh, since it says lo sakifu, pas roshchem on the pas harosh, the Gemara Makis, the end of Makis darshans, lo sakifu labla makif, labla nikaf. There are two lavim, so it should be counted as two lavim. There's a lav, if it's a Jewish barber, he shouldn't shave off the payas of his Jewish customers. If the Jewish barber has non-Jewish customers, he's permitted to shave off their payas. That's like shaving off the payas of a behemoth. There's no mitzvah, there's no isur for the barber to shave off payas of a behemoth. So the nochrim don't count as far as this law is concerned. So if you have a Jewish barber and the customer is Jewish, so the barber who shaves off the payas is in violation of the isur, and the customer who allows his payas to be shaved off is also in violation of the isur. So the Rabbi asks that it should be counted twice. And the same thing, lav la mashchis, lav la nishchas. If someone is shaving off my beard with a razor, so the barber who shaves it up with a razor, if he's Jewish, is in violation of the law. And the customer who has his beard shaved off with the razor is also in violation. So the Rabbi asks that should be counted twice. So what is the Rambam Shita? How come the Rambam holds that it's only counted as once? So Rav Delbel Soloveitchik in the shiurim that he gave on Nazir explained as follows, very interesting. The Gemara says that the customer who's sitting there and they shave off his payas, does he get malchus or not? So the Gemara says if he leans over specially to make it easier for the barber to shave off the beard or to cut off the payas, if he leans over specially, if he's misayeh, then he's like it. If he's not misayeh, then he's not like it. So the Rama quotes that din, if the customer is misayeh, is like it. So the Rabbit writes in Hilchos Avodah Zarah. The Rama quotes the dinim of payas in Hilchos Avodah Zarah because in the Moreh Nevuchim he says that the prohibition is because the Galachim, the clergy of the Avodah Zarah, used to be called Galachim because they used to shave off their beards, shave off their payas. So the Torah prohibited us from shaving the beard, shaving the payas, not to act like the Galachim of the Avodah Zarah. So that's why the Rama has these dinim in Hilchos Avodah Zarah. There's a lot in the Mishnah Torah that's based on what the Rama wrote in the Moreh Nevuchim. Every so often the Osameach will tell you, look in the Moreh Nevuchim and you'll understand what the Rambam said over here. Here in Idachas and by other places. So the Ravid has a hasaga on that Rambam. When the Rambam says if you misayeh, if you lean over to enable the barber to shave off the pace and so on, you get malchus. If you don't lean over, you don't get malchus. So the Ravid writes, you don't get malchus, but you violated the Isser. So Rav Delbel Soloveitchik said that this Rambam arrived at Allah Shitosam, because the Kes Mishnah comments on that Rambam, that's what the Ravid thinks, that if I sit there in the barber chair and he shaves off, I didn't tell him what to do, even if I did tell him, he shaves off my beard, he shaves off my payas. If he's a Jewish barber, he's in violation. If I'm not Misayeh, I'm not over anything. The Ravid disagrees, and the Kes Mishnah thinks the Rambam really holds like that. And the Ravid disagrees and holds, even if you don't do anything, the customer is over on the lav. But it's a lav she'ein b'maisa. If he's Misayeh, then he makes it into a lav she'esh b'maisa. And the Rambam Shita is that no, the lav is only on the makif. It's an isa not to cut off the payas. If you have your payas cut off, you're not in violation of anything unless you're Misayeh. Then if you're Misayeh, then you're over the lav of the makif. You're considered, since you helped out the makif, you're considered as if you did the lav of hakofa. The Delbel Soloveitchik says that this machlokes, the Rambam and the Ravid, whether it's counted as one lav or two lavim, the Ravid thinks lav la makif, lav la nikaf, lav la mashchis, lav la nishchas should be counted as two lavim. That's the Ravid l'shitasoi, who thinks that even if the customer is not misayeh at all, he's still over on the lav. It's just that it's a lav she'ema ma'aseh. Misayeh is really ein bo mamish. The Gemara says in Hilchos Shabbos and other cases So I can lean over all I want. If there's nobody there shaving off my beard or my payas, they're not going to disappear. So and the barber can shave it off without me helping him out, even if I don't lean over him. Misayeh ain't bo mamish. Misayeh is only over here. Why is he like it? Because the Rabbit sheet is, it was over the lab anyway. Even if the customer doesn't lean over, he doesn't help out the barber to shave off the pace of the beard, the customer is over on the lav, but it's a lav shem b'maisis. And then if he's Messiah, he converts the lav shem b'maisa into a lav sheyesh b'maisa. But the Rambam's opinion is no, not that he converts no, he's not over any lav at all. There's only a lav on the makif. There's no lav on the nikaf at all. There was one opinion in the Gemara in Nazir that the lav is only on the nikaf. And the lav on the makif is sort of lifnei iver, sort of a lifnei iver. So if you cut off the pace of a cotton, a Jewish cotton, then you wouldn't be in violation of an Isa. So that we don't paskin like that. We paskin there's an independent lav on the makif. But the question is there a lav on the nikaf? So the Rambam, the way the Kes Mishnah reads, the Rambam holds there's no lav on the nikaf at all. If he's misayaya, if he leans over, then he's considered as if he were the makif. But we have a klal, misayaya ein bo mamish. So the Taz in Yeridea says, it says there that before a woman goes to mikveh, she should cut off her nails to make them shorter, that the extra nail that's attached shouldn't be considered a chatzitza. So if a woman has to go to mikveh on Friday night, Leil Yontiv, you're not allowed to cut off your nails on Shabbos and Yontiv. It's a malach of gozes. So they should see to it that they cut off their nails in advance of Shabbos, in advance of Yom. What if the woman forgot that she permitted to have the nochri? Would you allow Amir Liakum? Maybe it's a shvuz, the shvuz b'makam mitzvah. If you cut off nails and you throw them in the garbage, Taisa's opinion is that that's a malacha shen tzvicha legufa. The Ramban disagrees, the Ribosh disagrees, but Taisa holds that it's a malacha shen tzvicha legufa. It's only forbidden mid the rabbanon. And if you ask the nachri to do something for you, that Amir the nachri is only the rabbanon. So maybe this is the shvuz b'makam mitzvah. She wants to go to mikveh. So the Ramah says in Shulchan Aruch that it's mutter. If you forgot to cut your nails before Shabbos, you can ask a nachris and hold your fingers out and have them cut off. And the Taz takes issue with the Ramah. He says, but it's misayaya. You help the nachris cut the nails by stretching out the fingers. True that you don't, even if you don't stretch out, they can open up your hand and they can cut the nails anyway. But you are misayaya, and you see from the din, if you're misayaya, then the act, if you're misayaya, then you get malchus. If you lean over and you help the barber shave off the payas, so you see misayaya yesh ba mamish. The Gemara says misayaya ein ba mamish. So the Taz said that's only if a person is carrying a piano on his back all by himself, and I put my hand on the back of the piano to hold it a little bit. So I make the burden of the man who's carrying the piano on his back, I make it a little lighter. But the way I'm holding the piano, if he won't be holding it on his back, the piano, I'm Misayeh and Mamish. The whole piano will fall down the way I'm holding. I'm not holding it enough. And he can carry it without me. So since the malacha is done, the Chefta Shel Hoitzah is the piano, and the way I'm holding it, I can't accomplish anything. The way he's holding it, he's going to carry it even without me. So there you say Misayeh and Mamish. But if I'm Misayeh and I'm Maisa Begufi, I lean over and help the barber cut off the beard or the payas on my body. Or Misayeh, I stick out my fingers and I help the nachris cut off the fingernails. So there the Taz says, you see from this Gemara that Misayeh, if it's a malacha begufo, if the aver is begufi, the aver is on my body, then you say Misayeh yesh bo mamish. And the Shach disagrees with the Taz. He says, what is he talking about? And he quotes the Ravid. The customer who sits and has his beard and payas shaved off is always in violation of a lav. But it's a lav she'ein b'maisa. If he's misayeh, he converts the lav she'ein b'maisa into a lav she'yesh b'maisa. But it's not misayeh yesh b'mamish that by being misayeh we relate the whole maisa to him. No, he's over the lav of nikaf, not the lav of makif. So the Shach quotes that from the Ravid. So the Taz apparently held like the Rambam. That the customers, the way the Kes Mishnah read the Rama, the customer, if he's not Messiah, not over anything. If he is Messiah, leans over especially to help the barber, make it easier for the barber to shave off his payas, then the Taz holds that. Then you say Messiah, Yesh Mamamish is considered as if he did the Isser of shaving off the pace. We spoke a little bit the other day about the machlokes in Shorish Aleph between the Rambam and the Ramban. Very strange. The Rambam holds that the obligation to observe all the mitzvahs, the Rabbanan, is based on the pasuk L'sasem Kol Davar Sheyigid Lecha Yom and Small. That's the Gemara. The Gemara says when you light candles for Chanukah, you say bracha Shekirishana B'Mitzvah Halik Ner Shal Chanukah. So the Gemara said, Hechen Sivona. What do you mean? God didn't command us to light Ner as Chanukah. It's only the Rabbanan. So how can you say Kirishana B'Mitzvah Sivona? The Gemara says no. The pasuk says L'sasem. So the Rambam paskins like that Gemara. And the Ramban has a whole attack against the Rambam in Shorish Aleph that that's not really the Maskanas HaGemara, and that opinion he claims was only a Haba it's only intended as a asmachta. The real makar is the other pasuk. The other pasuk is Shalavicha v'yageitcha zikenecha v'yamalach. So the Rabbi Chana Wasserman has a beautiful essay about this, and his Kuntras Divrei Sofrim. The whole Kuntras discusses the interface between Dinim Deraisa, Dinim Derabanan, and Torah Sheba'al Peh, as it relates to Torah Shebechsav. Beautiful essays. So he raises an issue: if the source for the binding authority of the Chachamim is the pasuk Shalabicha v'yageitcha zikenecha v'yamalach, that's not one of the mitzvahs HaTorah. That means learn from history. History repeats himself. Ask the elders what happened 100 years ago when there was a virus then. What did they do? And do the same now. Watch out. What they do during the Second World War about this and this, and do the same now. Learn from history. Learn from the past. But how can you say Shalabicha Yageitcha is the binding source of the mitzvahs Rabbanan? That itself is not a mitzvah. So Rabbi Chanan explains the binding force of all the dinim Rabbanan is the mitzvah of Avas Hashem, V'aftas Hashem Elokecha. How does a person demonstrate that he loves his spouse? You take out the garbage before your wife asks you to. Or on her birthday, you surprise her and you take her out for lunch. Or you buy her a present on your wedding anniversary, something like that. When you do something that the person didn't ask you to do, how do you demonstrate that you love your parents? You take care of things that you know would make your parents happy, even though you don't have to wait till they tell you 10 times, please take down the garbage, or please do this, or please go shopping in the store. If you have to wait till they tell you 10 times, that's a demonstration that there's a lack of love for the parents. But if you do it, you surprise them, and you do it without being instructed. That's a demonstration that you love the other person. You do something to make them happy. You surprise them by doing something that would make them happy. So the way we demonstrate Avos Hashem is we volunteer to do mitzvahs midrabanan because we go in the direction we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to go in this direction. So we go in that direction to do things that we know would please him. And that's based on the Mishnah, Maseches Avodah Zarah. The Mishnah comments on the pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Ki tovim doidecha miyoyin. So the Gemara comments on that. Ki tovim doidecha miyoyin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Chavim alai divrei seifrim yosem miyena shel Torah. I appreciate when the Jewish people volunteer on their own to observe dinim derabanan more so than when they observe the dinim deraisa. The dinim deraisa, I told them, I want you to do this, and if you don't do it, you're going to burn in Gehenna. You have to do the mitzvahs. There's schar v'yonesh. But on the mitzvahs derabanan, we invented them. We know what direction the Rabban Shalom would like us to go, and we go in that direction. So the pasuk Shalavicha v'yageitcha zikenecha v'yamalach, that's not the source of the binding force of the mitzvah derabanan. The binding force is v'haftas Hashem Elokecha. And it's not just the Chayvus Halvavis, it's a Chayvus Ha'ivarim. To use the terminology of the Sefer Chayvus Halvavis, you have to do actions that demonstrate that you love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How do you demonstrate? By volunteering to do things that you know HaKadosh Baruch Hu would appreciate. How do you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu would appreciate? So that's the pasuk. Shalavicha v'yageitcha zikenecha v'yamalach. Ask people who have an overall understanding of Kol HaTorah Kula. Some people think that we should volunteer, that just like you perform a bris milah on a boy, so you should do something on a girl. That's ridiculous. You're mutilating the body. That's not a voluntary mitzvah. That's an avera. So if you say Shalavicha v'yageitcha, ask learned people, what direction does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want us to go? And you volunteer to do mitzvahs derabanan, that's in the derech that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to go. So this will be a fulfillment of the mitzvah of Avos Hashem. These are some comments on various details that appear in the Sefer Hamitzvos. But in that, we will continue. I was asked to give a shir on the topic, I think on Wednesday night for Rabbi Tabbas's Mishmar. So I think I'll continue on the topic. Okay?
Does Rabbi have time for questions?
Sure.
Is there time for questions?
There is.
Okay, so I have a question based on the first part that Rebbe said. The Rebbe brought down a machlokes between the Bahag and everyone else about the first two mitzvahs. Is that a fundamental difference between the way that they look at what a mitzvah is, right? Because you have the concept Rebbe spoke about another share of Rebbe quoted the Ramban that they weren't allowed to build mizbeachs anymore because it was for, even though Moshe Rabbeinu originally built it, but eventually it was started off as something good, but ended off with something bad.
Matzeva, not a mizbech.
Right. Sorry, matzeva. So you see the concept that mitzvahs are. Rabbi Steif brings down a Kana Seifrim that says that that supports the Bahag, and he says that since that everyone was a navi in that time, then there was no need for those mitzvahs. So if you say that mitzvahs are just commandments, then a mitzvah will last forever, even when Mashiach comes. If you say mitzvah is like some sort of attachment, some sort of fundamental and personal item that once we achieve, we reach that goal and it no longer applies to us, then that would make sense why mitzvahs betelis v'asalavai, meaning that there's a certain mitzvahs are not just commandments. A commandment is a dry thing, right? I give you a commandment, it lasts forever. No matter what you do, it makes a difference. What you change, this is a commandment, a king from a king to the servant, then it lasts forever. There's nothing fundamental about it. But if you say that mitzvahs are more like attachments, then you can say that once a person reaches a drag or a certain attitude or whatever it is, then it doesn't apply anymore to them, which is why Rebbe said it was meant for Doris. It was not meant for that generation, but for us, who we never heard Har Sinai, we were never there, it would apply to us. That's how I understand it. And I want to see if that makes sense or if that was just the pretzel logic.
You have to study that Gemara well. When the Gemara talks about what the mitzvahs betelis lasi lavai, doesn't mean the dead people who come back to life. Hames is patam and mitzvahs. Even after he comes back to life, is patam.
Right. So that's a good question. So the question is there a certain level when a person reaches and it's no longer a commandment for that person?
No, what appears from the Gemara, that's only the dead people who are going to come back to life. Once they die, they're patam from mitzvahs. But the people who will be alive because they were born before, then Mashiach comes, will still be obligated to observe mitzvahs. Not that
I see.
Mashiach, there won't be any need for any mitzvahs. That's a simple reading of the Gemara, that the dead who come back to life, Mesim HaPater, even if they come back to life, Mesim HaPater. You're suggesting, and that's the question whether that's what it means. Mm-hmm. Simple Pshat in the Gemara doesn't apply to the people who will be alive.
Right, no, I'm suggesting there are two types of ways of understanding a mitzvah, and one of them is more a commandment, a dry way of understanding it. A commandment is a commandment, even if you're the biggest tzaddik in the world, you still have the Torah, and the Torah is still something. Is that a mitzvah is not a command? It's more than it's an attachment. Where once you reach that level of attachment, it no longer applies to you anymore. No. And therefore the Yidden who were there Har Sinai, they didn't have a mitzvah because they saw it already. And that also explains Rebbe brought down is how can the Torah command us not to want something? If you see it as a commandment, that's a good question. If you see it as an attachment, you're right. You could want something, that exactly is what the mitzvah is meant. Is that it's supposed to bring you out of your physical self, and it's supposed to elevate you. So it's more as good. Good idea is a very wrong word here because these are commandments. But I'm just trying to say that's the machlokes between the Bahag and other people is what the definition of mitzvah really is, and is a mitzvah commandment versus something a little more deeper and fundamental.
I don't think you see it from this. Maybe you have other sources. You don't really see it from.
Okay. No, because the joke is that if a person missing a head, he's pater for sharash. So
okay.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Will the Rav's wife light Shabbos candles this Friday night towards the end of Yom Tov?
Whenever we have 2 days Yom Tov, my wife doesn't light the second day because we have all the lights on anyway.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Should all be healthy.
Enjoy. Thank you.
Very good. Tonight I'm giving a shir at 8 o'clock. the Tuesday night shir, also probably be on Yonah Shavuos. Everyone is welcome to listen on Zoom. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me?